Hello everybody and welcome back to another Minecraft World War II build tutorial. And today we're going to be doing the Panzer IV Ausf. Now, the Panzer IV is one of the later production Panzer IVs that still used the stub gun before it started really, going toward the Panzer IV F2, the F, and then into the G, the H, so on and so forth. When they all started using the long-barreled gun, the 7.5. So, the Panzer IV, this one that I built, this specific variant was requested, and so this is my way of finally getting the darn thing done, because as we know with every single one of the tank requests that I ever get, they take a stupid amount of time to actually arrive. Now, regarding this Panzer IV, this one is actually, it was fun to build because it was finally updating a very old design, which is still on the channel, the Panzer IV G, back when that was built. But the thing that's different about this one from that one is that the old Panzer IV that I built, of course it was just a different variant, but that one was built on a body that was 5 blocks wide and had a center block for the gun. This doesn't have that. This is a 6 block wide body, not counting the decorative blocks and attachments. The whole body itself is mainly just 6 blocks wide, meaning that there is no center block. It is an even wide body. And what makes that different is that the gun is not centered on the body, and neither is the turret. Well, at least in this case, the turret's not centered. The thing that I've noticed about many people when they build Panzer IVs is that they tend to try to find a center block, or they tend to try to build them with a center block. Even I tried to do that for a pretty decently long time until I finally built this. And then I realized, wait a minute, there's a way of getting around that. Don't worry about it, just go build it at the width that it should be and figure it out. There's a way to get it done. Just go with it, see what happens. And that's what happened with this Panzer IV. I built it at its correct width, given that we're doing it at 2:1 scale. I built it at the right width, built the turret, mimicked the interior of, what the War Thunder X-ray of the Panzer IV says, what models of the Panzer IV say, and then even some schematics of the Panzer IV's internal layout to make the interior for this thing. And it turned out beautiful. I couldn't be happier with how this turned out. And I actually can't wait to see how other variants of the Panzer IV turn out with me just using this body. So, thinking about things like, I don't know, upgunned Panzer IVs, Panzer IV-H with all the add-on armor, or not even battle tanks, not even Panzerkampfwagens. We can just do things like flak panzers, like the Werberwind, Ostwind 2, Kugel Blitz, and so on and so forth from there. Or even the anti-tank variants like the Panzer IV or the Sturmgeschützwehr. Those sorts of things. Or even SP self-propelled howitzer variants. Like, there's so many different things that I can build off of this chassis. I'm just interested to see how it will work, because some worry comes to mind with this being an even wide body that I've now established. How is this going to translate to things like a Hummel, which, if my memory serves me correctly, and it pretty much always does, the Hummel has a center-placed gun in terms of where it sits left to right. It has a central-placed gun. So how am I going to pull that off once it comes time for me to build something like a Hummel? I don't know, because it's built on a Panzer IV chassis. I may have to end up building a different chassis for that, which I really don't want to do. So I may try to figure out some way of doing that. Maybe I'll use like trapdoors and whatever for the gun, but that sort of thought worries me. But since the project at hand was a standard Panzer IV, I went and did what I could. So God help me with any further projects that require me using this body. But in terms of the product at hand, the standard Panzer IV, not any of the things that are going to come later, we can be happy about this, because look at how nice this thing looks. I love this Panzer IV. This matches really nicely with a lot of my other builds in terms of its size. I couldn't be happier, seriously. I really couldn't be happier. And I hope that goes for the rest of you as well. I hope that you all enjoy this end product of my decently long struggle of trying to find the right Panzer IV build. And so here it is. So, that being said, I want to do a little bit of reading to you from another one of Tank Encyclopedia's articles. Now, I introduced you all to Tank Encyclopedia not very long ago, back in my Challenger Mark I build. Back when I made the Challenger 1, I introduced you to the website Tank Encyclopedia, the online tank museum, which I reference all the time when I'm building vehicles, given that they have info on their website. I love them so much. They even have an Instagram page if you want to follow that and not have to actually go to the website. They have an Instagram page where they'll post little things about the different articles that they make, or you just see the different things that they put out articles on, and they make artwork of every one of the builds, of every one of the vehicles which they talk about. They have artwork of it, and it's beautiful. They even have a YouTube channel where they'll, they do vocalized articles, so podcasts, I guess, would be the correct term in this case. So they have podcasts, and they even have them on Spotify too, where you can listen to them there. And different bigger name people in the tank community, work with Tank Encyclopedia every now and then. So if you are someone who pays attention to the different bigger names in the tank community, like the Chieftain or Sofaline, just to name those two, they do work with them. Or if you're a War Thunder player and you know Cone of Arc, who is a decently big name in the War Thunder community, or just in the tank community to begin with, just by doing tank content. He's well known for his series called Cursed by Design, where he talks about a lot of, tank programs which were abandoned over time. He's well known for that, but he also does work with Tank Encyclopedia doing their podcasts and reading off the different articles. So it's an amazing website, so I highly recommend you go check them out. I'll leave a link in the description to this article that they have on the Panzer IV. I'll leave it in the description, so please go check them out. So I'm going to read it a little bit now, rather than rambling on for another hour and a half, just going on about the sort of stuff that they do. So, where do I begin here? So, I could start at the history point, but I guess I'll start right here. Yes. Alright, so I'll start at the very beginning of the article. I'm not going to read all of it. I'm only going to read some of the stuff that's really worth reading here first. So, following the victorious campaign in Poland, the German army requested even more Panzer IV vehicles. This would lead to the Panzer IV Ausf, which was in essence just a slightly improved Ausf version. By the time the production run ended in April 1941, some 200 vehicles were built. Now, according to Tank Encyclopedia here, they listed as 200 were built plus 6 chassis. The number that I have in the beginning of the video here says 206, as other sources have said, and then even one source that they'll mention in here mentions 224. So bear that in mind, that it seems that the number is pretty disputed, depending on where you go. Not really anyone can seem to agree on a number. But, again, let's remember something, that this is the 40s, this is World War II, and this is especially the German Reich. So we kind of know that not everything was recorded all that well, and then things that were recorded, some things ended up getting destroyed when the Reich fell. So, in terms of accurate numbers, I don't really think we're ever going to know complete and solid truths to every program ever. But as far as this one goes, we don't know completely how many were actually built. So I'm going to continue reading here. Following the introduction of the Panzer IV Ausf D, Panzer IV Ausf D, if I'm going to say part of it in German, might as well say it correctly. Following the introduction of the Panzer IV Ausf D, the German Army High Command, Oberkommando des Heeres, or OKH, issued orders for the development and production of the new Ausf version. This version was, in essence, just a copy of the previous one, with some minimal changes to it. One of the main changes was that one of the main changes that was originally planned was to use 50mm thick frontal armor, but this was not implemented by the time of production. In July 1939, the OKH awarded a contract for producing 223 vehicles to Krupp Großonwerke. This contract would be reduced to 206 vehicles in March 1941. Eventually, during a production run that lasted from October 1941 to April 1940, from October 1940 to April 1941, some 200 vehicles were built. The remaining 4 chassis were to be converted to Brückenleger für See bridge carriers, and 2 were tested with a new experimental suspension. According to military historian K. Hjermstad, some 224 Ausf vehicles were built by April 1941. So like I said earlier, they have this one source here which references the 224 Ausf, as opposed to everyone else, which seems to linger more around 206, whether completed or 200 completed and 6 chassis built, like Tank Encyclopedia seems to believe. Let me see something here. One thing that it mentions in this article when you scroll through it is that and it actually shows an image here, that, you know, the Panzer IV did get some additional armor, 30mm of armor placed on the superstructure front, so on the hull's front, by that flat plate where the driver's port is and the machine gun port. They would get an extra 30mm there, extra 20mm side armor on the hull. But then what's even more interesting, and that this I haven't really seen before, and I like it as I'm looking at it, is that it could also be equipped with an additional, actually it doesn't state the thickness, but that some vehicles got additional turret armor as well, which looks like spaced armor or bolted on armor to the front of the turret. And I'm not talking like the same kind of armor that they would wrap around the turret on like a Panzer IV H or J. I mean, like, this is different. This is completely different. It looks like it was built to fit the silhouette of the turret. It's actually pretty nice looking. Go check out the article and scroll down, you'll eventually find it. But it's really nice looking, actually. If I was to give a guess, I'd like to assume that the turret armor would probably be another 30mm, like on the front of the hull. I'd like to assume that the turret probably got an extra 30mm just because it makes sense. Because I don't see why you would armor the superstructure an extra 30mm, but not the front of the turret as well. To me, it would just make sense that it itself is also an extra 30mm. Maybe what I'll end up doing is making another version of this with the add-on armor, but we'll see how I feel about that. I have too many other builds to make anyway. And then you have a bunch of different things in here about its service, Africa, the Balkans. You know, you can read this all for yourself, and I highly recommend you do, because Tank Encyclopedia, with the sort of info that they give you, it's not dry info. Like, this stuff is genuinely good. It is entertaining to read. It's just good. I love it. I really recommend you check this out, so please go check out the link in the description. So what more do I say besides this? I don't know. I like how my build turned out. I hope you all enjoy this too. I'm starting to introduce to my channel more and more vehicles that have even wide widths, and rather than me trying to round up or down to, you know, a width that gives me a center block, rather than me trying to do that, I'm trying to now experiment different ways that I can make it work to have the even wide body. Kind of like what we did on the TOG 2 back in April, if you remember that from the April Fool's build with the TOG 2. The TOG 2, when I built it, had an even wide width. So I did what I've never seen anyone else on YouTube do as far as building a TOG. I gave it the accurate width in 2:1 scale. So there was no center block. Yes, that screwed up making the gun. No, I didn't care. So what did I do? If any of you remember, I ended up using barrier blocks as my way of making the gun. So I used barrier blocks on one side, and then on the other side, onto those barrier blocks, I put signs throughout the length of the gun. Yeah, it makes the gun less detailed than it would be if you were making it a odd wide build, so that you could make the gun out of individual blocks and whatever, or walls. So when you look at people like WWII, he likes to make his gun barrels, or at least for the most part, out of what I've seen, he likes to make his gun barrels out of stone walls and such. Which, good on him, you know, that's his style, so let him stick with that. And then Garrett likes to, and as do I, use blocks and such. But I decided to make this new compromise where, you know, you don't need to find that central block. Just experiment and find what you're comfortable with. And so you're going to see more builds like that show up. But as I'm running out of time here, I'd like to start wrapping up my commentary. And just keep more of what I'm saying here just short. If you want to play if you want to be able to play with the Panzer IV Ausf, go play War Thunder, because the Ausf is actually there on the main tech tree for the Germans in War Thunder. And if you pair it with the right vehicles at that BR, you know, you can actually have a lot of fun with vehicles such as this, given that the matchmaking actually lets you have fun, because War Thunder, those of you who play War Thunder, you know how sly the snail can be. And so you know that not always does it want to give us good matchmaking, so don't go playing War Thunder expecting to have fun 100% of the time. Oh, but I gotta say, I really do love my Panzer IV. I hope that you have a lot of fun with this. And since it's a more popular vehicle, I hope that this video will do particularly well, seeing as how it's not an obscure build like I'm very accustomed to doing, because those of you who know me know that I love to do the obscure builds, like my last video, which was the LTL for Lithuania. Which, how many of you knew about the LTL existing before my video, huh? But the Panzer IV, everyone knows the Panzer IV, or at least everyone who's learned about tanks in World War II. You know, one of the first vehicles you'll probably end up learning about when you look at the Germans is the Panzer IV, alongside things like the Tiger, the Mouse, and the Panther. So the Panzer IV is one of the more popular vehicles, and I'm probably going to end up making more variants of this thing in my free time. I do really want to build things like the Kugelblitz, or the Ostwind vehicles, or even the anti-tank variants, but especially I want to make the other medium tank variants of this, like the H. I'm not sure if I'll make the J, because I'm going to end up making the H. I really don't have a reason to make the Panzer IV J, seeing as how effectively, or visually rather, it's pretty much just the same thing without the Schützen on the body, but the Schützen around the turret remains, or at least that's how War Thunder depicts it. Maybe if I do some more digging myself, I'll end up finding something that's different enough to make the video, but what's going to be difficult is trying to have commentary for those videos when I've already went through the commentary on this video. Anyways, it's about time I start wrapping up my commentary. I hope you all enjoyed this build. If there's anything you'd like to see, please leave a comment in the comment section of any vehicle you'd like to see. In my description, there's also links to my Discord. Well, among other things, the Discord. Please come join the Discord, come hang out with me and the others. I hope to see you all there. Anyway, I love you all. Take care. God bless you all, and I'll catch you all next time. Goodbye.